The story I always tell of how I got to become a Rutgers person is that I was the surprise child in the family, which means that my sister, who is also the closest sibling that I have, was 10 years older than I am. So when she was 18, she got accepted to Douglas, and I actually learned, everything about, the university. I got to see her dorm room, and she took me around. We went to Ag Field Day, and so anything that was happening at Rutgers, I was involved in. Believe it or not, my first Rutgers football game was the last Rutgers-Princeton game. From that point on, I was always in love with Rutgers, and as I've just always been. And so when I got the opportunity to get this job, it was, people often talk about, what's your dream job? This literally was my dream job. As I grew up, I always wanted to go to Rutgers, and I was always a fan of Rutgers. And for those of you who don't know, back in the day, I'm talking like the late 90s, early 2000s, if you wanted to know anything about Rutgers, you had to either subscribe to the Star-Ledger. If you lived outside of state, you knew nothing. So there was a website back in the day called Exit 109 that was run by a huge Rutgers fan, and it had a message board on it. And this was basically the place to be for anyone who wanted to know anything about Rutgers. The guy who was actually running that website decided that he had had enough. He didn't want to run it anymore. And so there was this massive message board community that was sitting there that had nowhere to go. So I, at the time, had a website, and actually still do, called rutgersfan.com. If you go there now, you'll just see my fan page, and you'll see just pictures of me and things. But back in the day, I decided I can learn how to put a message board. I can download a free message board. I can figure this out. And I did that, and all the people came from that website to my website. And when they did that, it became kind of a big thing. And actually, that's where I started tailgating with the friends that I still do today. I've been tailgating with the same group of people for, I believe this is the 26th or 27th year. We had these little hang tags with our screen name on them, because back in the day, you weren't known by your own name. You were known by what your screen name meant. For example, one of my best friends, his name was SPK something, which stood for salt, pepper, ketchup on his fat cat. And so we would run around with these little hang tags on us with our names on it, and that's how we got to know each other. And 26 years later, we're still tailgating together. Absolutely, had our first tailgate last week. So I have an entire story about the Louisville game, which I love to tell, because it was literally one of the best days ever. So the game was I believe it was at like 7:30 or something, and I got there. I was in the parking lot, I believe, at like 9 a.m. So for those who don't know, the tickets to that game were very rare. I could have made $2,000 on my extra ticket if I wanted to, and that's in 2006 dollars. So obviously we win the game. The game's amazing. Everyone goes nuts. We all rush on the field. I take out my phone to call everybody. Cell service is dead. Every Rutgers fan in the world is picking up their phone trying to call somebody. It's dead. So I get back to my tailgate, and I'm like, wow, I'm exhausted. And I'm not sure if you guys know, but Brian Leonard was like kind of the heart of the team back then. So here I am sitting there, kind of taking it all in, and who comes walking out but Brian Leonard and his family walking right through my tailgate. And Brian Leonard's aunt comes up to me and says, would you do me a favor? Would you take a picture of me with Brian Leonard? And I said, of course I would, as long as you return the favor and take a picture of me. So the last picture I have of that day is me with Brian Leonard, one of the classiest Rutgers guys I've ever known. And I always remember here's a guy who just had the game of his life, emotions drawn out of him, and here's some weird guy he doesn't know asking for a picture, and he was the nicest guy you'd ever want to know. So I always enjoyed that. And then I drove down to College Avenue and Easton Avenue to see what was going on, and oh my God, it was like downtown Manhattan. It was 4 or 5 deep on the streets. There were RU chants going back and forth on all the different. It was just the day of days. I'm very prideful of Rutgers. I think it's very. How do I say this? It's an honor to be a graduate of Rutgers. It's an honor of being part of it, and I take it as such.